I'm just gonna say white folks can see it when it comes to other things. Like I can see it. That makes sense in that culture. But when it comes to African Americans, it's suspect. It's always something. It's almost like we gotta fight for that pain to be identified and recognized. You know what I'm saying, Jay? You know what I mean? The impact of this of that trauma, affects us even to this day, even though that was 159 years ago. 159 years ago. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
man. Absolutely. Like it shows itself up in so many ways, in all of our lives, but especially, I say in the lives of black men. I mean, there's multiple ways I could talk about this. One is like even the the trauma and just certain words being used, right? You can talk about like a black woman and say, "Hey, that's my girl," and everybody goes, "That's a term of endearment." But you saw let somebody say to a black man, "That's hey boy," or
Right.
boy, like it's like something rises up
Yeah.
in you. Like,
Right.
don't call me boy. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like that you didn't even know was in you. Like it could be your friend, like that. That's my boy. Yeah, right. But then you're like, wait a minute, that's somebody else saying, and you feel it
Uh-huh.
in your DNA. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
always, I always tell the story of like when I realized that I had some real internalized trauma. Was my wife is in urban agriculture, Michelle, and she's been farming and doing urban gardening for decades now. But when she first started, man, I couldn't even watch it. I couldn't even look at it. Something visceral. I had like a visceral reaction to it. I would go in the house and like, hey, I'll check you out when you come back. I knew she loved it. I ain't trying to stop her, but I just like that ain't my thing. And one day she was like, you need to come out here. And I'm like, I'm straight. She like, no, come down here. And she like grabbed my hands and put them in the soil and started talking to me. And she's like, Jonathan, you feel that? And I'm like, what? She's like, no, you feel that? That's life right there. That's not death. That's not pain. That's life. And you need to stop letting the fact that every image you've ever seen of black women slumped over in the soil, having been connected to slavery, keep traumatizing you. We are the originators of this. We are the ones that built this country. We grew all the food for this place. We every piece of clothing you have on, that cotton was picked by us, and I'm just like boo-hooing while my hands are in the soil, like feeling
Wow.
it for the first time and realizing it for the first time. And I'm like, gee, it's absolutely right. And I'm like, how did that trauma get in me? Nobody told me to feel
Right.
that. Nobody said you better think this way about it. It was
Right.
passed down through my DNA and through every image I saw and through every movie I had to watch, and all those
Yep.
things. And so, like, even this, like, while we celebrate what Juneteenth means, we
Mm-hmm.
also have to be aware of the damage that enslavement, that, even hearing stories like we was free and another 2.5 years, folks were still being enslaved, right? Like the
Mm-hmm.
damage that that does to us is real, and the trauma that it causes is real. And so, whether people recognize it or not, Pastor Phil, or whether people think it's real or not,
Mm-hmm.
real recognize real. We know what's going on inside
Right.
ourselves. We
Yeah.
know what the real deal is, and so we got to start facing these traumas head on and start, trying to pretend like they're not there. That's why we find ourselves in our communities, lashing out the way we do because we don't deal with the traumas in
Mhm.
our lives. So yeah, this
Yeah.
stuff is real, man. Like it's real, real.
And what's crazy is that we'll take the trauma out on each other.
Yes, sir.
you know, and and won't think anything of it in that
Mm,
context.
Yeah,
that's real,
yeah, yeah.
real.
We embody that trauma, right? And it's passed down. And I think it's crazy about Juneteenth in the same way that there was a group of our ancestors who didn't know that they were free.
Hmm.
Um, many of us didn't know about this holiday.
Exactly,
Didn't know this history, right?
exactly.
It was kept from us. I mean, it didn't become a federal holiday until it's what 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's just and it shows you the importance of how history is so important, right? We have to know our history, and this is not just Black history. This is American history,
That's
right?
Right.
right, T.
I often stress that to my colleagues, my Caucasian, my Asian, my Hispanic colleagues. This is American history. It's not just Black history. This is American history.
Yeah.
Because as we mentioned before, African Americans, even though this nation was native, indigenous land, African Americans helped build a lot of
That's
this
right.
nation. So,
Yeah.
the history is important for us to learn history and unlearn some things,
Yes, sir.
and I hear that's kind of, when you was telling that story, Jay, that you had to unlearn some things, right?
Mhm.
And understand that, yo, this nation, we helped build this nation, but
That's
also there's so much history that I'm even learning in my, even today, like I'm learning things that, wow, this I didn't know this, how come I didn't know this? And it's hidden from us. But I think the impact of Juneteenth, I think obviously in 2021 we just came off of, we were in a pandemic, George
Mhm.
Floyd, and so I think a lot of us were like, you know, you know, going deeper and
Yes.
understanding and
Yes.
looking and learning. Um,
And
but
longing,
yeah,
man, and longing for
yeah,
some kind of connection. You know what I mean? I
yeah,
think post George Floyd and all that we saw in 2021, not only were we longing for connection because of the pandemic, but we were longing for identity because it felt like we were under attack. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
Mhm.